Thank you for the note, sir.
Good evening again. I entertain a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We're out of closed session. Good evening, everyone. Glad to see you. You have the agenda before you. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none. I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. You have before you the consent agenda items. A, approval of minutes March 17th and March 25th. Request for refunds. Budget amendment 36.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with both those items, A, B, and C, rather, 3 items.
Motion on the floor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Been approved. And we have special guest, Tim Lyons of Malden and Jenkins CPA's virtual audit presentation. I think he's joining us by Zoom.
Yes, Mr. Lyons is the engagement partner for the county's audit with Maudlin and Jenkins.
Okay. We'll wait on our technology administrator over there to try to log him in. Madam County Manager, are the lights on back? Somebody put the lights on back there?
The ones right in the middle center are not on.
They're not on.
Okay, I think they're set back here.
That was a good
There we
idea.
go. Thank you.
You can't see our eyes.
While we're waiting for the live feed for the Zoom meeting, if you're here and you would like to have a citizen comment, you can sign in at the, there's a table up at the front, to my left, to your right, if you are here to make a comment. Or you would like to make a comment. Okay. Ms. County Manager, when they are connected, I'll rely on you to make the introductions for us, since it's on the finance.
Well, as I said, he requested to be introduced as the engagement partner for the county's
There
audit.
he is.
Here we go.
Here we go.
And we were all handed the booklets at our last meeting, and he'll be reviewing those today.
Okay.
That was a short presentation.
But that's all
There
right.
he is. He has a PowerPoint.
We need to vote.
Mr. Lyons, can you hear us?
Yeah, yes, ma'am, I can. Are y'all ready for me to begin?
Yes, we are, and welcome to the meeting. We are looking forward to your presentation about the audit.
Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all having me on tonight, this format, as it were. For the presentation tonight, I'm just going to go quickly kind of through this agenda, go over the results of the audit, talk through just a couple of financial ratios that I think are important that we've communicated to the board previously, and then go over some comments, recommendations, and other items that we had. And then certainly, if you or anyone else on the board has any questions, feel free to stop me or to let me know at the end. So just to kind of reintroduce ourselves, I know Malden and Jenkins has been the county's auditor for 3 years now. I've been involved with the engagement on the backside, but this year took over as the engagement partner from James Bentz, who you all are probably familiar with and remember seeing at previous meetings and previous presentations. James was still involved with the audit this year. He performed the role of engagement quality control reviewer, which is where we finish the audit, we get everything done, we send the statement, the report, and the file to James to do what is called the final quality control review to make sure that we've done everything we're supposed to. So that is the engagement team for the 2020 audit. The results of the audit, probably the most important piece here, that second bullet point, our report on the county's basic financial statements. We issued an unmodified or a clean opinion on the basic financial statements, which there is not a better opinion you can get. So that's a really good, really positive thing to get that clean audit opinion. The next couple of slides are what are known as required communications. We are required by government auditing standards to communicate certain items to the board as a result of the audit. And so I'm not going to read each one of these to y'all, but I just do want to highlight some of the ones that I think are more important than others. On this slide here, I think it's important for the board to know that as a part of our audit, we have to consider the county's accounting policies, the accounting estimates, and management's judgment that goes into all of those. And we reviewed those as part of our procedures, and there are no aggressive estimates or non-standard policies that management has employed that are different from what you would expect to see at a county government in North Carolina. So I think that's an important thing as a board member for you to know. Our relationship with management throughout the audit, we received full cooperation from the county's management and staff. Want to take a minute to commend Kim and thank her and her staff for all of her flexibility. Obviously, with the COVID situation, this year's audit was much different than the way things have looked in the past, and so I think it's really important to point out that we had a good working relationship with Kim. We appreciate her flexibility, and even with all of the things we had to work through with COVID, the county's audit was finished and turned in to the LGC before the deadline this year. So that's a really important thing and something that I think the county should be commended for. Um, the audit adjustments bullet, I think, is also important to point out, mainly that we had no unrecorded adjustments. Sometimes when we go through an audit, we can identify what are called proposed and past audit adjustments, where what we identify is not reflected in the final financial statements, but we did not have any of those. So all proposed audit entries have been posted and are reflected in the county's financial statements. And then lastly, I always like to kind of reiterate and point out our independence. In order to conduct an audit and to render an opinion on the county's financial statements, we're required to be independent, both in accordance with our professional standards that are governed by the American Institute of CPAs, but also as a governmental audit, we have to follow government auditing standards, which are even more stringent than just regular AICPA professional standards. And we meet all of those requirements to serve as the county's independent auditor and to render an opinion on the financial statements. To touch on some financial ratios real quick, as of June 30th, 2020, the county had approximately 79 days or 22% of annual expenditures in unassigned fund balance. That's that fund balance that is not set aside or restricted for any other spending purposes. So that's what's there for general operations. As you can see, the county is right in that kind of within that GFOA benchmark of 60 to 90 days. And then looking at the database that the North Carolina State Treasurer's Office keeps on file, the county average across the state is about 30%. But this chart shows one of the things I think that's important to see is that the county's unassigned fund balance is trending, especially the last 3 years, in a very positive direction to be both in line with what the GFOA's benchmark is and to be more consistent with what other county governments in the state are. I think when you consider that, along with the fact that the tax revenue per capita in the county, that tax revenue per capita is lower than other counties in the state. We have a $642 per person, roundabout tax revenue per capita, whereas some of the smallest counties in the state are at $725, and statewide, when you look at all counties, it's about $737. So a good fund balance position and a low tax revenue per capita are good financial indicators. Some general fund budget highlights. I know sitting here in April of 2021, these types of things don't have a ton of relevance to you all anymore, but I also know that the actual financial report itself sometimes can be quite overwhelming given how many pages it is and how long some of the footnotes are. So I think the general fund budget is always a good place to kind of look, and some of the highlights there show that the county's revenues, the actual revenues, exceeded final budget by about 3%, and expenditures for many of the county's functional areas were about 6.5% below the operating budget. From talking with Kim and throughout our audit procedures, we know that most governments generally went into a pretty conservative posture as the pandemic was setting in. So you could see that those cost measures reflected in the actual numbers, where the county actually added about $1.1 million to fund balance this year in the general fund. The county also has two enterprise funds, the landfill fund and the water fund. The water fund reported a decrease in net position of the year, but I think it's important to point out that about half of that decrease is depreciation expense, which is a non-cash item. And when you consider that result in conjunction with the cash flow statement, you can see here that the water fund actually added, from just its pure operations, over $500,000 in a positive cash flow for its operations, which then allowed the water fund to invest in purchases and acquisitions of capital assets and things like that. At the end of the year, that net position number shows a positive unrestricted balance in both the landfill fund and the water fund, and that means that both funds have positive unrestricted net position that's available for spending in future periods. The last part of the audit report is what is known as the single audit. We have to review the county's federal expenditures, which this year totaled about $1.7 million. We had 3 federal and 1 major state program that we had to audit this year. The Medicaid cluster, which we're required to audit every year. And then we also audited the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the coronavirus relief funds that the county spent, those being the 3 federal, and then the Public School Building Capital Fund. Our federal and state compliance procedures, we had no findings and no internal control issues to report. So a very clean report on the compliance audit side as well. Getting into the last part here about comments, recommendations, and other items, we did have one what is referred to as a finding in our report. Essentially, what this amounts to is we had to post several adjustments and do some things to clean up some of the capital asset ledgers that the county had. And whenever we post adjustments during an audit, we have to evaluate those adjustments based on our materiality thresholds. And unfortunately, when we're dealing with capital assets, a lot of times we have large dollar amounts. And if our adjustments exceed materiality, government auditing standards require us to report a finding. I think it's important to point out with regard to capital assets, we're talking about adjustments that were posted that are non-cash. A lot of times we're talking about fixing depreciation expense and accumulated depreciation. So, this is one of those where, fortunately, our hands are tied and we have to report it as a finding. But overall, it was just adjustments to get things cleaned up and reported correctly as of June 30th, 2020. The last section here are what are comments in what we call our management letter. These are just recommendations that we identified during the audit. We don't consider these items to rise to the level of being a significant deficiency or a material weakness in the county's internal controls. These are just recommendations for improvement, to improve efficiencies or to improve internal controls. And so things like making sure the county has a well-defined financial reporting process, having that process defined and written out and sort of codified in a policy helps for business continuity if there were to be a turnover in management or those types of things that make it easy to have other people step into and fill different roles if there was some sort of personnel matter that required some key person to be out. So recommend that we have that policy really documented and written out. The approval of journal entries, really what that came down to was with some of the different working environments that we found in responding to the pandemic, just considering how we would document the approval of journal entries in a remote or electronic environment. We had two funds that we had just a recommendation about cleaning up budgets. The COVID-19 relief fund and the illegal substance tax fund didn't have budgets last year, and the COVID-19 relief fund not having a budget was something we saw at a lot of our county governments last year. And what we recommend would happen is that we make sure that we just consider any sort of new revenue streams or other things that come in during the year to make sure we get those budgets adopted. And then lastly, a recommendation about the information technology environment. Just as, you know, we refer to this as an industry recommendation. This is something that we're trying to communicate to all of our governmental clients to make sure that IT and cybersecurity are things that we're really paying attention to and thinking about proactively, because unfortunately for a long time it was only really larger entities and larger governments that were being hit with cyber issues and breaches of security and what have you. But in the last couple of years, we've seen where it's not just large governments, it's really governmental organizations of all sizes. And so I want to make sure that we're considering those risks and addressing them appropriately. The last couple of slides here, these are kind of more proactively. We actually had a phone call, a Zoom meeting with Kim yesterday to talk about these new GASB pronouncements. And while I would love to talk to you all about them for a long time, I know that hearing about new accounting pronouncements is not something that the board really needs to hear from me a ton about right now. So we have this in here just as a reminder of things that are coming that will impact the county's financial statements. Lots of federal actions responding to the COVID pandemic, and there's a lot of additional federal funding out there. We want to be sure that the county is aware of all of the requirements that come with that funding, and certainly we've communicated with Kim that if she has any questions, we're here to help and happy to help sort through any and all of that. And then just as a final reminder, we do quarterly continuing education. We're actually doing a free webinar that'll happen later this month and in May. And so if anybody has interest in getting on our mailing list about that, Kim has my contact information and I can get you added to our distribution database. With that, I will happily take any questions that the board might have.
I'd just like to say that we appreciate you going through that, the audit. We did receive copies from the county manager, so we've seen that before, and you explained it really well. And also, Kim, I see you in the back. You've done a phenomenal job, and I know I aggravated you by asking some things about the audit when I read the report, but I didn't understand. But she did a very good job in explaining it to me. And Tim, she's always said, Tim's doing this and Tim's doing that. So I'm glad to see you again and hear you. Are there any questions or comments from the other commissioners?
Madam Chair, I have one question for you, Tim. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Under the tab of findings, you indicated that they were non-cash issues. I'm curious, did they go back, was it anything from previous years like 18, 2019, anything like that? Or were they all in the current year?
There was a significant amount of cleanup that happened. To go back, there were assets that had been capitalized that did not meet the county's capitalization threshold. So we were capitalizing items that were in the capital asset ledger that were, more maintenance type items. So there were some things like that from previous years, but the biggest part of it that had to do with fixing it was there was an item that had been added twice, and so we had to remove depreciation expense for that asset. But like I said, I mean, this is all non-cash items in that we're sort of just cleaning up depreciation expense in the sub ledgers, and not that reporting those balances isn't important. Obviously, we're rendering an opinion on them. We need to get them right, but it's not like there were liabilities that were understated or unreconciled differences that we couldn't figure out. It was more just getting the capital asset balances cleaned up and reported correctly.
Okay. That's the only question I had, Madam Chair.
Madam Chairman, there were a couple of things that kind of caught my attention, Tim, that reminded me of our budget hearings and some of our things. Did I hear on the enterprise fund that was unrestricted?
The slide that I'm showing right now shows the net position, which is kind of when you have assets minus liabilities. Net position is sort of what's left over, and that the little gray heading down there is net position as of June 30th. The landfill fund and the water fund both report positive unrestricted net position.
Interesting. Very well, thank you. That's what we sort of thought in the past. And then the other thing that I thought was very positive is we're 642%, whereas with our tax revenue, as far as our tax percentage in relationship to other counties, maybe the highest I heard was 737% or something.
That's what we kind of call that tax revenue per capita, where we look at overall tax revenues and divide it by kind of like an estimated population number. We kind of gather that information from the reports that the state treasurer's office puts together every year. And so this is sort of like a tax revenue per citizen, if you want to look at it that way. And yes, the counties is about $642 compared to statewide, the counties are $737.
Roger that. Very well. Thank you.
Commissioner Jones,
I don't have anything to add.
Commissioner Hopper?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Kim, and thank you, Diane, for this report. It's very impressive. It's very positive going forward. And we thank you for all the work and for your oversight. Okay? You have a good evening.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Y'all have a good evening as well.
All right. Zoom safely. Okay. All right, we'll have a presentation. Mr. Brooks, the Gates County Confederate Monument Committee. Good evening, good evening.
Everybody. We want to start by acknowledging the committee, if that's okay.
Yes, yes, I would like you to do that.
Those that were on the committee, keep it saying.
Okay. They can say who they are, just in case people don't know who they are, behind those masks. Okay, welcome.
And I am Lee Brooks. First of all, we want to thank you all for choosing such an awesome topic to tackle in the time of the heat of the battle as it is in America right now. But counting it not robbery that it was important enough for us to do. Do y'all mind if I take this down so I don't have to keep fighting with this for a minute? Thank you.
Thank you.
But allowing Gates County to be shining a light and an opportunity that is not done everywhere right now. Everywhere has not tackled this topic in the best of interest of everybody, I've heard other counties on how they've handled the monument, whether it's tearing it down or whatever they decided. And the way that we were able to come together, we had 6 members. There was supposed to be 7, but there was one that was, had some health issues. But you guys done an awesome job with choosing the members of the community to represent Gates County. And we wanted to let you know we appreciate that opportunity to even represent Gates County as a whole on such an awesome and big topic. We had a lot of learning that was done, a lot of dialogue. We thought, we never had any issues. We never had any, no raising of voices. Now, there were some touchy topics, I will say. There were, a couple touchy topics, but us all being adults and understanding that, it's real life, we were able to navigate our way through them. We looked over the meaning of the monument, how they actually started, why they're facing the direction that they're facing. These were all topics that we actually researched that we did to ensure that we brought the best recommendation, to the county. After doing all the research, we decided that tearing down the monument wouldn't be in the best interest of the county. One of the things that we decided was tearing down the monument would probably, it's not going to change the laws. It may change the monument, it may change the look of the county, but it's not going to change any laws. And so you would have some that were upset that it was up, and you're going to have some that were upset it is taken down. So what do? We came to the conclusion that we would add a new inscription to the monument. By adding a new monument, you guys have the inscription, you guys have the actual fees, and so we went through several different companies. We got a few estimates, and you have exactly what we came up with. I want to say to the committee, I appreciate you for sacrificing your time, being open, being transparent in some areas that, we have never had an opportunity to be transparent in. But I think we were all made it better because of it. I think we all grew in ways that we never even considered when we were chosen to be on this committee. So again, I want to tell you thank you for trusting me for wanting to be chairperson. But just for your dedication for making sure that we came up with the best solution to help the Gates County move forward. Any questions you guys may have?
I have a suggestion. Could you read what you want inscribed on the obelisk or the sign that you propose so that it can be put into the records and the audience can see it and hear it as well?
It says, "United we stand, dedicated in 2021 by the citizens of Gates County, North Carolina. The Civil War was a major event in U.S. history that cost the lives of thousands of citizens and left the landscape in ruins. Despite losing the war, there was a movement in the South during the era of Jim Crow to memorialize and honor veterans who sacrificed their lives for the right to succeed from the Union while defending the institution of slavery. The honors given to these veterans in the past do not represent our values as of today. Citizens of Gates County value unity, racial equality, inclusion, and acceptance. We are a community who respect and love each other in spite of our cultural, religious, and political differences. Being an example of a good citizen and neighbor, we look to serve as positive role models for the next generation of young people. Removing the Confederate monument will not end racism. Let it serve as a reminder for who we are and who we are not. Hatred has no place in Gates County. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. The cost and estimate for the, did you want me to read that also? The cost estimate for the monument was about $4,000. Was $4,000, which is from Davis Monuments, to include the monument, the granite pad, the lettering on the front, and installation.
I think there was a second recommendation as far as the sign.
There was,
Would you like my copy?
Pedestal you're referring to?
It's there. I just want the difference in cost. Being transparent.
the pedestal sign.
Yes, pedestal.
The pedestal sign is large sign and 2 posts will be needed to install it. As for a seal, the price was, there was gonna be a seal added to it also. It's a 30 by 36 sign, single-face cast aluminum sign with the price being $2,893.60. To add the seal would have been $170. The backer plate of 2 by 2 by 8 posts was $447.30. The prices do not include shipping. So when we looked at the two, our number one recommendation would be for the actual monument itself. And it seemed to speak and look better. But again, that's totally up to what you decide and what you come up with. But I would like to speak on one thing if possible. Talking about this topic in such a heated time that we are in our country at the moment. My son is going through some tragedy at the moment, but Gates County has showed up in ways that I cannot explain. Gates County has erased all racial barriers, all social barriers, all economic barriers when it comes to how you guys have supported my son. My family really cannot express the words on how heartfelt we are right now. It's just been an astronomical, a tremendous blessing on how y'all have really come together to show support for our family. And this monument is a reminder of how we do things in Gates County.
Amen.
This monument is an opportunity to say, we do things different in Gates County, and now I see why.
Any comments for the committee or Mr. Brooks?
I have, it's a very impressive report, and I can see that you took your time and to come together. I can see where you spent hours upon hours on it, and I appreciate that. This Davis Monument Company, is that the one in Elizabeth City?
It is.
Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that's something local.
Yes, ma'am.
So that would make it. But no, thank you for the job you did.
Yeah.
Thank y'all again for trusting us.
Yes.
I believe from one opinion, the monument brings more dignity to the issue and more dignity to your work. So I would, from one vote, I would concur. That would be my selection as well.
Mr. Freeman?
Very good, Mo.
Thank y'all.
Commissioner Jones?
Thank y'all for what you did. I know it was as Mo said, and I've heard from committee members, a very sensitive topic, a hot topic across the country. There were, I forget the word that this person used, but disagreements, but you all were respectful and listened to each other's opinion, and some of you heard from others outside the committee and were respectful to listen to their opinion as well, which is very important. And I appreciate all the time and effort you put in this. As Commissioner Owen said, I like option one. I don't know what, how we'll move forward with it, but, I appreciate the work that all of you did, and you're right, the county has stepped up. in more ways than one, and it's good to see that, Mo.
I just want to say that from day one, when Ms. Hoffa and I met with you first, you know, we gave you the charge, and then we didn't see you anymore. You didn't come to any of your meetings, no one called, you know, nobody got upset. You just asked questions, and we had the clerk to answer those questions. I want the audience and the citizens to understand we did not have leverage. We didn't put any ideas into your head. I also read that you spoke to about between 400 and 500 citizens.
Amongst the group of us, yes, ma'am, we did.
I want that to be known, that they didn't sit in isolation. They actually talked to citizens that wanted to discuss it.
We did.
I know Mo, everybody got a haircut.
It was a hot topic. But again, I had to, I enjoyed having the conversations because of the dialogue that we were able to have. I was able to bring in some different viewpoints, you know, and hearing different viewpoints, you know, when having these conversations in the barbershop and just in the community. So it helped out a whole, and it did, it helped out a whole lot.
We're grateful as a board for your work, and we charged you, and you've met the charge. So we're grateful, we're thankful, and let me just say that we know what's going on in other counties and all across the United. We don't have to be like everyone else.
That's right.
We do not have to be like, this is where we live, and we don't have to be like everybody else. We have to be respectful of differences and ideals, and that's what you've shown, that we can move forward. If it so pleases the board, if you want to make a decision, I can come up for a motion if you like. If not, we can let it lay and think about it. What is your pleasure?
I think I can vote.
I can
Well,
vote.
I just because it's me, I would like to see if any of the other committee members would like to say something. And furthermore, I think it would be, our cameras shoot at us. And I would like to show, if the board members don't mind getting up and standing before us, coming up here to show the diversity that this board,
Come up.
for the citizens. I know you're having a bad hair day, Malcolm, but if
You
y'all
can
could
take your mask off if you like.
go see Mo and
Most
come up
people-
here and just let the citizens see what we did for this topic.
And every precinct was represented on the committee. Every precinct, turn and face the front, thank you. Every precinct,
Come on, guy, you'll never be camera shy.
they had to apply. Yes, it was an application, and they applied, and we sat as a board, and we chose one from each precinct, and we tried to get diversity in age and race and gender and whatever. We tried to make it broad, and we did. We did a good job of choosing these young people. Thank you.
We do have one committee member that wasn't here that was really influential, that's Ms. Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't a committee member, but her input and the dialogue helped out.
Yeah. So what now?
Awesome.
Yes.
With, yeah. When you learn, you grow.
Yes.
Okay. It speaks volume when you really calm down and just read. Do your research, not what someone says, not get all, festered. You need facts. She's a fact checker. Okay. All right then. Okay, y'all can have a seat.
Excuse me, Chair, excuse me, Chair. Excuse me, Chair, may I ask everybody just to gather that pose again and maybe just slide over just a little bit to the left so we can make sure we get everybody besides. Yeah.
To the left,
so
Speedy
TV
Joe.
doesn't block everybody.
He's our director.
He's the director. How's that? Good? Okay. He's got you now. All right.
All right.
Thank
Again,
y'all.
Thank you.
Mo, I believe you wanted to add something. Good to see you guys.
We have one more recommendation. Again, to show the unity of Gates County as an unveiling. If we could do a unity cookout, a unity, unveiling or of some sort to celebrating the monuments.
Okay. We'll take that under consideration. He wants to do some kind of unveiling once it's ready, some kind of cookout, some kind of unity. I think they did something last year about a unity at Community Center.
Reverend Wiggins.
Yeah, Reverend
Wiggins,
Wiggins.
yeah.
Something in that vein. So we'll take that under serious consideration since y'all did a good job.
Can I ask a question? Did Davis give you an estimate of time it would take to get a monument done?
Now, that I do not remember. That I do not, I don't remember that
I was
part.
just, you know.
I don't remember that part being a
But
question.
but it could be within the summer.
Yes.
Sounds like a 4th of July thing to me.
That would be
Miss,
awesome.
Madam Chair, if the fellow board members would, thank you, Mike, appreciate it, buddy. We tasked this group of people that we hand-selected based off their applications. I'm not opposed to making a motion tonight to tasking our county manager.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I would like to task our county manager to contact Davis Monuments based upon the recommendation of our Gates County Confederate Monument Committee, I want to get it right, to go ahead and procure option 1, the recommendation of the committee, and that is my motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion, Madam Chairman.
Okay,
And we'll second it. I would like to add one other thing that I know it hasn't purposely been forgotten, but that is that I nominated at the time as a commissioner an ad hoc committee with Dr. Riddick and Commissioner Hoffman. So that came from that ad hoc committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well noted.
It's been,
I
no,
have a question.
wait, we got to vote now.
Oh, yeah, but
We're gonna
I
discuss
heard
Go ahead.
that it's a question about what we're going to vote on, to make sure. Ken is our finance director. We got the money, right? Just want to make sure.
Oh, yeah, we had the money. I'll check on that. We don't spend money we don't have.
Okay, I know.
It's been properly motioned and second that we expect, we go with, the first recommendation 1 of Davis Monument, and that the county manager will see that project through.
Yes.
Is that the motion? Are you ready to vote?
Yes, ma'am.
All in favor, raise your hand. Motion moves. Approved unanimously. Again, thank you. I see them laughing like they just done something. Let me just say one thing before the committee leaves. I'm quite sure you're going to see other counties wanting to know how we did this. There's some counties that still wrestling. And I've been asked about when they saw the agenda. And I said, well, just wait and see what they present. So we may get questions, board members, about how we did this, the process and everything. Not saying we would, but you can be proud of the way you conducted yourselves as a committee to represent this county, and we thank you again. With that, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
you, Diane.
You're welcome.
We're going to resume with our meeting. Next on the agenda, is citizen comments. I have one person signed up, Dr. Landon Mason, and each one on the, that have signed up will have 5 minutes to share with your presentation. Come on, Dr. Mason.
Say good evening to everyone. Thank you very kindly, Commissioner Chair, for this moment, and certainly to the county commissioners for giving us this space and time. Again, let me say thank you for this opportunity to share some information on behalf of the Economic Improvement Council that's located in Edenton, North Carolina, where we are leveraging a total of $22+ million, Gates County being one of the 13 counties that we serve. We have a 15-member board of directors. Mr. Robert E. Williams is our board president, and he's currently a citizen here in Gates County. In 1964, of course, President Lyndon B. Johnson waged war.
I think you might need to speak more in the.
Is that better?
Okay.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. And so in 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson raised war on poverty. I've got 5 minutes, and
Yes.
probably 3 1/2 is already gone. But I've got so much good information I want to share with you that I really believe that will bring a greater sense of enlightenment to the work that we're doing here in Gates County. In particular, in Gates County, I don't know if you know, with 11,000+ citizens here, 11.1% of your population lives in poverty. Those are our target population. Here at the Economic Improvement Council, we have 5 programs that are operating in Gates County: Early Head Start, Section 8 Housing Voucher Program, Weatherization Program, and a Community Services Block Grant Program. The economic impact for fiscal year 1920 brought almost a little bit more than $343,000 to Gates County, serving a cumulative total of 53 families in each one of those particular program areas. And in saying that, we are working tirelessly to make sure in each one of those areas that we are working with those most vulnerable citizens here in Gates County, being a voice for those voiceless, helping them to become economic sufficient. And so in saying that, from that profile of services that we actually offer, the economic impact, again, is well over the exact total for fiscal year 1920 was $343,018.73. In addition to that, we're just so super excited about this big pop-up tent event that will be happening in Perquimans County Rec Center. This event will be an inaugural event here that will take place in Perquimans County, where the North Carolina Community Action Association, where I am currently the board president. May is Community Action Month. We've partnered with Albemarle Regional Health Services, where we are actually going to be offering vaccines during that giveaway. We're going to be popping trunks and having in excess of 80+ volunteers that will be putting food products and Amazon products, you name it, into the cars of people that are struggling. And so this event is going to take place on May 25th. We are actually planning now. I was on a planning call with the state office today with our team. We rolled this event out in Raleigh at the PNC Center. The event started at 10. 3:30 in the morning, cars was already lined up to receive services at 10. That was huge. And we served 1,000 families there at the PNC Center in Raleigh. We went to Statesville and served about another 1,000, where we're coming to Eastern North Carolina, and we're going to serve a minimum of 800 families. More information will be forthcoming. I have had conversations with the Pasco County Commissioners, Perquimans County Commissioners, Tyrrell County Commissioners, Martin County Commissioners, and now Gates. All of those particular commissioners have literally indicated that they are on board for this event. We've got sponsors any way that you can support by volunteering or supporting in any kind of giving. It would be so much appreciative. Again, this is going to be an inaugural event like none other. Director Betts and his team from the Albemarle Regional Health Services. We are so excited to partner with them, and other community partners are partnering with us. This is going to be huge. If nothing else, if you could come on the 25th and just view these huge pop-up tents, 50 pounds of weight on each corner, a cumulative total of 200 pounds of weight holding down tents. I promise you, it'll be like nothing you've ever seen in Eastern North Carolina. Last but not least, our organization is very strong. We've grown tremendously. And here is an impact study that was done on our agency from 4.5 years, from $11 million to $22 million, from 115 employees to now well over 330, from a 10-county presence to a 13-county presence. 4.5 years, we were able to bring a minimum of $55 million of federal funds into this region to serve children. And so EIC now becomes a gateway in early childhood development with that early head start. $30 million for 5 years, $6 million a year. It's incredible work that we are doing. My time is up. I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for giving me this space and time.
And thank you for the presentation. We look forward to seeing those flyers and those information.
I do have some information. If you're welcome, if you're willing, I can give it to the clerk.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Mason.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you, Robert. Thank you again for serving.
He's hiding behind the screen
He's in a good spot.
there. Thank you. Administrative reports, county managers report.
We'll begin with the county manager's report for the month of March. Discussions with the Planning Zoning Department regarding concerns, several discussions with the sheriff regarding county matters and personnel, communicated with Emergency Operations Center regarding the county's temporary morgue cooling system not functioning. The cooling system has now been repaired. Discussions with the Finance Office regarding last quarter projections for fiscal year 21 revenue streams. Discussion with two departments on how to utilize county resources and reduce contracted services monies. Met with Commissioners Owens and Hoffler and Customer Service Lead Employee Daphne Walker to discuss the Customer Service Department's comprehensive review. Joint discussion with Inspections, Planning, and Code Enforcement regarding a citizen's complaint. Review the lease agreement with the Historical Society regarding the historical courthouse. Forwarded concerns to the county attorney. The agreement is now finalized and signed. Zoom meeting with Kara Malonzi with the School of Government, Dr. Riddick, and the Finance Officer regarding clarification on calculation of school appropriation funds. Keeping abreast of latest details of the American Relief Plan funding signed off on March 11th by the President, projected to be $2.2 million for Gates County. As of today, the U.S. Treasury Department has not provided total directions for spending. Participated in the American Water Works Association Zoom meeting on cybersecurity and potential funding. Unfortunately, at the end of the funding, we were not available. At the end of the meeting, we were not available for funding because our population was over 10,000. Meeting with Kathy Maxfield, Pierce Group Benefits regarding fiscal year 22 employee benefits. Happy to report health insurance costs will not increase. Dowdy Lane update. David Ott, District Engineer's response to the Commissioner's request. He has requested that the Division right-of-way agents reach out to adjoining landowners in an effort to allow construction of low-maintenance roadway in the coming years. In the short term, DOT's maintenance forces have been made aware of the current road condition and will address as necessary to ensure safe travel for motorists. CDBG update. 2018 CDBG-NR, the bid replacement housing has been awarded and the recipients have been notified. As of this time, they should be contacting the supplier and choosing details on their replacement homes. Keith Roscoe update. McDavid Group has made multiple attempts to contact Mr. Roscoe. They have additional funds available for him. As of today, because I wanted to give you a current update, a packet is on its way to Mr. Roscoe for he and his wife to complete. I have put him in touch with Mike Barnett, and the ball is in his court currently. The Clifton Walton update. Mr. Walton was instructed at the last board meeting to bring the county manager all of his records. He brought them in on April the 12th. As of to date, I spoke with Mike Barnett. Mr. Walton has not responded to the letter that he sent him October 27th of last year. I left messages for Mr. Walton today to contact me directly and on what he needs to do as a plan to get his deficiencies corrected, and I'm still waiting for his phone call. And as an add-on for today, that our finance officer just received an email today, which was perfect timing, and you have in front of you a contract to audit accounts. This would be a new contract for Malden and Associates. This is the contract for next year to do our audit. All statements and disclosures required by the U.S. General Accepted Auditing Standards and additional required legal statements and disclosures of all funds and divisions of the government units. This is what they take into high priority. Also, this contract, if accepted tonight, will not be valid until it's approved by the local government commission. And the audit cannot be started until the contract is approved. And they usually begin their preliminary audits in May or June.
Okay.
And there was, I don't think there were any changes as of last year's contract. They are expected to begin this spring and issue their reports no later than October 31st. Tim Lyons, as gave the presentation today, is the engagement partner, and he is responsible for supervising the engagement and signing the reports and authorizing another individual to sign them. Our fee for these services will be $47,500.
Any questions or comments for the county manager on her report? Again, a very thorough report, comprehensive report. We're going to hold this contract for Mr. Wilson to go over with you, and then you'll execute it, bring it back, we'll execute it. Make sure that he's aware of the audit, what we must do, and the funding that we're going to have to secure. I do have a comment for the county manager. You did a very good job as far as updating us on the housing. I had a voicemail from Reba Green Holly, and then I talked with her, but she had a voicemail. We had applied for URP 2021. Reba was heading that up with REC, Roanoke Electric Company, for a grant for $100,000. The voicemail stated that we did not secure that grant, but they did say that they want to talk to Gates County in the month of May for planning for the next round, which is, I think it's November. And when I spoke with some of the, one person, I can't remember her name, I got it in my notes, with revitalization in Raleigh, we have too many grants open. We have 3 grants, open grants, housing grants open. We have got to close something. You can't keep them open and think you're going to continue to get grant funded. So we need to get these, somebody's got to close something. So I know McDavid is working with all these grants, and we have to get movement and spend that money so that we can qualify for more money for additional families that need housing. And I just want to make that, say that so to get in the minutes that, we're not going to get the 2021, and they're going to have a conversation with the county about how to plan forward so we can score better in the next go-around. I'd have the conversation also with Albemarle Commission about how the money is dispersed and when it comes to the region. I was trying to understand how it works. So those conversations are ongoing about the region itself, how the money comes into the region, over $750,000 at least. So we have a new person, new people at Admiral Commission. Mr. Irvin, he was here, made a presentation, and then Sharon, she's the program specialist. She is writing another grant, and I'll talk about that, because that's old business down at the bottom. But Gates County has to close some of this housing grants. They've been open too long. So please stay on. I know it's frustrating, but please stay on, Mr. Walton and Mr. Rasco, to contact McDavid so they can help them. The money is there. They just got to answer the phone, sign off on whatever. But I am pleased that the 4 replacement homes are moving right along.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments for the county manager in her report?
Okay.
One more thing. I think I said something to you. We are aware as the board that the sheriff department has received $50,000 on behalf of Senator Steinberg. And for strictly the sheriff department, it was 4 counties that were on the list: Terrell, Washington, Gates, and Hyde. And so we received $50,000 from his efforts. And I suggest that we task the county manager to send a thank you, appreciative letter from the Board of Commissioners. I know he called her and he talked with the sheriff, but I think we should send a letter from the board thanking him and appreciating his efforts in funding the Sheriff Department of Gates County, $50,000.
To be signed by the chair.
The chat, yes, sir. I think that'll be, I think that's the proper thing to do. I mean, he didn't have to do it, so.
I'll be glad to. As I explained when I got the phone call, some counties would have batted an eye at $50,000, but for Gates County, that's very humbling. We do struggle, and to have the restricted funding just to be totally for the sheriff's office at this date and time was monumental for Gates County. So I'll gladly send him a letter.
We'll find a place for it, yeah.
I think we have.
Okay.
They need radios that should be in place by 2023.
Okay,
I think a lot of this is already earmarked.
okay. We continue with our reports. Next,
I am through with mine.
okay. Tax report.
Good evening again. You should have the tax collector's report for March of 2021 in front of you. We had good collections for the month of March, about $41,000 more than we had for February, and the bulk of that $41,000 came in after the delinquent notice went out in the Gates County Index. We also had a good month for DMV collections. That is just the way it goes. It was $75,000 last month. It was $96,000 this month. It just depends on how tags renew. As you can see, we're a little bit ahead of where we were last year on collections, 95.51% versus 94.84%. We'll keep that going and hopefully get close to our goal is 100, so we're working on it. As we all know, the Board of Equalization and Review convened this evening at 5 o'clock. If anyone has any appeals on property values, they need to contact my office by telephone or by email or in person to schedule an appointment. Hearings will be held by appointment only through the 19th of May when the board will adjourn. Any questions for me?
Madam Chair, you forwarded us an email from Chris the other day, and Commissioner Owens questioned the revaluation
All right.
percentage.
Clarification.
Clarification.
Can we, since we got Chris in front of us, to elaborate on
Sure.
that, or?
Sure.
Sure.
So we all understand it?
Yep.
Yep.
The Department of Revenue has us send what we call qualified sales, which are any sales in the county of parcels that aren't a gift deed or heired property or something like that. And we send those sales and sales prices to the Department of Revenue, and they compare those with the assessed values that we tax the taxpayer on. And as you saw in that report, we were at 99.8%, and they gave us a weighted average of 100%, which means our sales prices and our assessed values are right in line. So there's the revaluation cycle is a 7-year period. On that first year, they look at that report that they send all of us, and if you're below 90%, which means you're undervalued by 90% or less, they change the way that they evaluate public service companies, so as far as like Verizon or Time Warner or Spectrum, those types of companies. And they do that on the first year revaluation, the fourth year, and the seventh year. This is our fourth year after the reval, so that's why we were included in that report. As you all saw, we were at 100% of our sales study, so there will be no changes to the public service valuations for this year.
So, to summarize, if I can, did a good job, by the way. So we're in our fourth year of our reval, and the results of the initial reval are holding true?
Yes.
Or holding trend?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And I think, Jack, it's every 7 years?
Every 7 years. No, that's the maximum that I was telling some of the board members earlier. Some counties, big counties, will do that more often than every 7 years because like a county like Wake County or Durham County or Orange County, their valuations are constantly changing because of how their economy is. We can do it every year. It's not cost, effective to do it every year.
I'm just thinking the way the house values are, well, it's not house values, but the sales prices are right now. I'm glad we're not revaling right now, because
Right.
everybody, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about for the Board of Equalization Review, where last year we didn't have any appeals, and this year we'll see, but, folks tend to come to us more when their values are higher than they are lower, and we don't have a lot of people clamoring for us to increase tax values right now, so that's a good thing. But yeah, it is good that, like I said, we're still holding steady at that 2017 revaluation, so I don't see a need to do it any earlier than.
And if it stays like that, it doesn't give that shock factor to.
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
Then, go ahead, Ray. You have an update from Zacchaeus?
I do not. I called today and it's still under review. I called this
That way,
morning.
I've got an answer when I get the phone call tomorrow.
Yeah.
You got your answer too for the lunch room.
Zacchaeus was in our court recently, and I had an opportunity to meet him,
Okay.
speak with him,
I see
so, this week.
Yeah, because we got $5,000 from Zacchaeus this month.
Okay.
Have we put any new ones with them?
I'm sorry.
Have we put any more files with them? I know we didn't during COVID.
Yeah, we sent them some files last month, and I think Mark Bardell, who's the attorney for Zacchaeus that helps us, and he's coming back on June 15th to auction 2 properties off at the courthouse.
June 15th.
Any more questions?
I think June 15th and again in August is what his schedule is.
Any more questions for Mr. Hill? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Have a good night, sir.
Good
Thank you.
job,
When you
Chris.
find out, let me and Jack know, please.
Finance
Chris.
report, Ms. Outland. Hardest working finance director in Gates County.
Good evening. I have a couple of updates since I turned in my report for you guys that I wanted to go over first before we talk about the recommendations that I put in your packet for our excess funds. I just want to piggyback on the audit contract from earlier. Just to clarify, in that total price, they also estimate that they'll have to do 2 single audits. This year, as Tim had said during his presentation, we had 4, and that's based off of the amount that is spent. One was the COVID funds that we received, which the COVID funds actually paid for their audit, so the county didn't have to pay for that. 2 are usually for DSS, that's the Medicaid, and then the SNAP program, which is food stamps. And then this past year, for fiscal year 20, because we had expended a greater amount through that needs-based grant that we received for the Central Middle School project, that was the other of the single audits. So we definitely know for fiscal year 21, we'll definitely have 2, which would be the DSS and probably some for our grants. So I just wanted to let you guys be aware of that total cost was not just their hours worked, that was a part of that contract as well. I wanted to update you guys on an email that we received this week from the LGC. I think everyone has seen that, the email. On April 15th, Dr. Riddick, Diane Hendricks, and I received an email from Mark Baker with the Local Government Commission requesting our fiscal year 22 proposed budget as well as our current budget with any year-to-date amendments to look at actual versus budgeted. This email stated the request was due to Gates County being on the units that need assistance list. And since I've been employed with Gates County, this is the first time we've ever received this request. So I contacted Mr. Baker to inquire, and as well as express my concern because they were requesting our fiscal year 22 proposed budget by May 15th, and we won't have our first budget workshop until after that due date. I explained to him what was going on, and he was fine with us as long as we submitted all this information to the LGC at least a week prior to when we adopt the fiscal year 22 budget. This is just if they have any red flags or any questions, they have time to contact us before it's approved and adopted. The reason we were on the list, this is based off the fiscal year 19 audit findings. They have not received the fiscal year 20 audit findings list yet. This is a new procedure, so that's why we have not received it before, just to let you know. This is something that they've started this year. So I didn't know if anybody had any additional questions about that email or what it was from.
I'm sure we're not the only county that received it.
No, we're not, and he was very easy to work with, and I think he's actually fairly new in his position as well, but I think probably some of the other counties that have had this information requested are in the same boat as we are. They're getting ready to start their budget workshops, and so he understood and was okay with extending the date and working with us.
And don't you think that probably was prompted due to the 17, 18 leading up to 19?
Of the fiscal year 19 audit findings. As we have discussed, at many of our meetings, that was during the year of the perfect storm. There was the software conversion in February of 2018. There was turnover in the finance office not too long after the software conversion had been put into place.
It was the audit debacle.
That was the year the FY 18 audit was not completed until June of 19. So we had no time to correct anything for fiscal year 19 because we were just then getting the audit findings. So any of the items that had been listed in the fiscal year 19 audit were items that I had found as we were going through the process, but as Tim had stated in his presentation tonight, if you're in the middle of the audit and you're posting things then, and it was, a big amount, you have to have a finding on it. So all of those items have been corrected in the fiscal year 20 audit. We didn't have those same findings.
Of course,
Just come back and haunt you up.
yeah, and
Yes.
of course, in addition, that was upon your entrance into Gates County that it got cleared up.
Thank you, Kim.
Were there any other questions on just the LGC letter that we'd received or email?
Ray Charles. You can continue.
Oh, okay. The other update that I just wanted to talk about, I was on a webinar earlier this month, and it was kind of an overview on the American Rescue Plan Act funds that Gates County is slated to get. Diane had spoke about those in her report as well. Just to give you kind of an overview of what those funds are, the first tranche, as they call it, which is the payment, will be received 60 days after the enactment. So that's estimated for us sometime in May, the first. The second payment will not be any earlier than 12 months after the first payment, according to the enactment. On the NACO website, which, for those of you who don't know what who NACO is, it's the National Association of Counties. On their website, they currently have a frequently asked questions document already up there with just some general overview. And if you think of some additional questions, there is a way that you can submit them, and I think they're just gathering information to continue on with that document. We have not received any additional guidance from the NCPRO office. That's the Pandemic Relief Office with North Carolina. Those, the folks that were employed in that office were who we reported to for our coronavirus relief funds. So we haven't really got any additional guidance other than the overview. These funds must be spent by December 31st of 2024. So we have some time to really think about it. And during the webinar, like I said, it was basically an overview of these funds, but the takeaway message was really for these funds versus the coronavirus relief funds. Those were relief, short-term funds. These are to be long-term, or to really think about what Gates County needs in the long run. So that was basically their message that they gave us, to be very thoughtful of how you spend these one-time funds. So were there any questions on that money or anything? Okay. So in my finance report, as we have talked about throughout this fiscal year, we were very conservative in the beginning when we budgeted, because we did not know how the pandemic was going to affect our sales tax revenue or Medicaid hold harmless money. We were not sure if we would get it, and if we got it, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to keep it. I can say our sales tax revenue did not decline. In fact, we stayed steady or even increased over the prior year. So we were not affected negatively like some of the other counties. So due to this very conservative budget from the beginning and our sales tax revenue, between the sales tax revenue, the additional from the corona, relief fund, and we have just received our Medicaid hold harmless money, we're going to have an excess, I'm projecting an excess of over $1 million. So I have put some recommendations in my report. Since we had, as we could even see on our audit report, we've been very, very conservative with our spending and cutting departments on some of the bigger ticket items, because we just didn't know if we were going to have the funds to be able to do it. So within my recommendations, I did have one additional recommendation that I put the backup information on the table before the meeting that was not in my report. But initially, if we just look at the Medicaid hold harmless money, we are estimated to receive $492,000. As I reported last month, we have received 90%, and when they review and do actual calculations in August, you will either receive your remaining 10%, or you could receive a bill. I feel like since our sales tax revenue did not decline, we will not be in a payback situation with our Medicaid hold harmless money. So my suggestion for some of those funds, or the majority of those funds, is to just set that money aside, $467,191, to set that money aside for the balloon payment for fiscal year 23 on the DSS loan. That was the resolution that was passed, I believe it was in May or June of 2020, when we discussed refinancing that building with the intent to pay it off early. So I'm suggesting to set aside those funds for two reasons. One, it's the funds are not leaving the checking account. We're going to set them aside. In the event in August we find out we do have to pay some of this Medicaid hold harmless money, we haven't bought anything. The money is still it's still there, we just will have to regroup on the balloon payment. So that's why I made that recommendation to set aside those funds for that. After I made that recommendation, I did send out an email to our departments in the county asking if there were any one-time, non-reoccurring purchases that either they were requesting for fiscal year '22 or something that may be in fiscal year 2023 that they had been in areas where they had been cut or needs that we couldn't address because we didn't know if we were going to have the revenue to support it. So I received from Lisa Cherry from the planning department. They currently are using a vehicle that was repurposed from the sheriff's department. And if you have any questions on the age of that vehicle, she is here with us, so if you have any questions about her car. So we're requesting to replace that. And then I talked with the sheriff's department on their needs, not only in '22. I knew that their budget had been the first one that had been cut for capital outlay in the past. So we talked about the needs of their cars, not only for the upcoming year, but in the next year, and they are requesting 3 vehicles. Again, I have all that backup information for the vehicles that the departments have requested were in your packet. Kathy Horton with the Register of Deeds was requesting for a project that covered, was it 1967 through 1994? For fiscal year '22, she is also doing this project for years past 1994, but that's being paid through funds that are slated, that come from Register of Deeds that go into that automation fund. So she is using her funds for that. But we were trying to go back even further, and if you have questions on exactly what all that entails, she's here to answer those questions. The last item that was new that I put on your table before the meeting, Clatia Johnson and I, the Director of Board of Elections, we recently met this week, or last week. We were finalizing all of her different pots of grants monies that the Board of Election received this year. There were several different pots of money. She still had some remaining funds left from her HAVA grant. So we discussed, she wanted to replace her voting machines, and I believe she said these may have been purchased between 2006 and 2008. So the document that I put on your table, she had almost $6,500 left with her HAVA grant, and we are requesting that the county replace all 9 of her machines, and we pick up the remaining portion. We were able to zero out all of her other grant money. This was the only thing that was left for that. The only other items that I put in there for discussion, I know we have talked about, we had to use some money, fund balance appropriated, to go ahead and put, money back to that, so we zero out what was in fund balance appropriated. We initially started out with $55,190 to balance the budget in July, and then we increased it by $8,000 during a budget amendment to cover the cost of some of these additional programs that we had to do the single audit for this year. That was unexpected. I also recommended, we have talked about setting aside some money for unfunded liabilities such as our OPEB, our health insurance for our retirees. I said set aside $100,000. We spent, I believe on the last time I looked, it was over $76,000 for a year. So basically all we do each year is we budget for that year and we don't put any money towards the future. So those were my recommendations. I guess it's questions.
So that money, OPEC, that stays there, just recurring from year to year, and then additional monies or budgeted?
What we do each year for any departments that have anyone that we pay for retiree health insurance, at the beginning of the year, we estimate how much that's going to cost in each budget. That covers that 1 year. So if we start setting aside money, to the side, as well as being able to pay for your current year expenses, after a while, what you've set aside, you can start drawing from, and there's less county funds in that current budget that have to be appropriated for that expense. It kind of frees it up for other kind of purchasing as you're drawing from your savings account.
It could also help us in the years, way down the road, this one need, that $76,000 could grow to a number that could cause us to have to raise taxes. With this fund, we could prevent that, possibly.
And my recommendation, if we do set aside any funds for this liability, is not to put it in a trust fund, just have a separate checking account, and the board would pass a resolution to commit those funds. But then, if this board or a future board in future years decide we're not going to fund retirees' health insurance anymore, that board can pass another resolution to move whatever it has been overfunded, whereas in a trust fund, I don't know that you can. It just...
Also, this has been a recommendation from the LGC for a number of years, this unfunded mandate, a liability that we have, that we needed to put money aside, because our workforce, some of them could live, and we hope they do live long after they stop working, 30, 40, 50, years. And insurance is not going to go down.
And this only pertains to retiree benefits, has no bearing on current employee. But now, Kim, is this something that you may already know the answer to it, but if we develop that fund and we start funding it, like, for example, your recommendation, is there does the LGC have a recommended investment product for that type stuff?
Not that I'm aware of. When I had this discussion with Tim, when I was asking him some questions about it, I think it was before our last meeting. So when you pull out your audit financial statements and read it, in that section where it does address OPEB, it's a really, really big number. I think it was like $3 million in this past one. And that's based off of a whole bunch of calculations in there, but as if everybody in one day, you were paying every retiree in one setting, which is not the case. You have your current year expenses. Like I said, this year it was about $76,000. So for the audit part, if we just have a separate checking account, you really won't see that number going down because we're taking care of it in another way. It'll show up as committed fund by, sorry.
Committed?
Committed,
Not, is that different from restricted?
Yes, there are several different meanings to the fund balance. Committed is the highest that the board can restrict funding. So when you have restricted, that's from other outside of the county, outside of this local government body, restricting those funds. For example, there's a portion we always have to set aside based off of the LGC, that stabilization
Formula.
So committed is the highest level that you guys could. Assigned, there's committed, and then there's assigned, and that's just an intent. There's no formal, like a resolution.
I guess committed by this board would force a new board to have to follow those guidelines, wouldn't it?
Right, unless there was another sort of resolution that took place where it changed that.
Well, they'd have to go through that process.
They would have to go through that formal process.
Okay. Didn't mean to make the meeting any
No.
longer.
Do we we have to, do we have to say anything for you to have that budget item as a line set up in a separate account?
Are we still talking about overhead, the OPEB? That was one of the things that I discussed with Tim yesterday on the phone, and I think we were gonna have a follow-up conversation. I believe it's just gonna show up as a committed fund balance, so it wouldn't, I don't know if it's necessarily gonna show up like what you're thinking.
And that you as finance officer for the county can deem to do that?
By the board's direction, yes.
Any other questions for Tim?
The recommendations, I make sure Warren hadn't killed my time off. The recommendations that you made, you said you sent an email out to all the departments, and you've given us recommendations from only three, unless you include this one, so four. So, let's think about it. When you send an email out saying, I don't know if you said there's free money, because we all know there's not a such thing as free money. I've said that once or twice. It's just interesting that only four reached out about that. What's the timeline? These are, and when I looked through my board packet, Kim, your recommendations are what's given to you
Correct.
by the department.
Correct. And I did ask the question, if you're giving me this, is this something that you can indeed purchase before the end of the fiscal year? Because we're talking about fiscal year '21. Because if it can't be purchased, then it was no need to try to encumber these funds for something that would not be able, was not doable.
I think that the county manager even went door to door, you can call it that, asking them to send in something. They had a deadline to do that, so they chose not to. So I wanted to say that, because you know how people are gonna do, you know.
But
I didn't get mine.
that's okay too,
It's okay.
I mean,
It's okay.
budgetary wise.
They were given an opportunity with an
Each
email
department was given
and,
the opportunity.
right, and a personal
And-
knock.
And the sheriff,
Yes,
is
sir.
sheriff still, okay, never mind, I'm not gonna say anything about the sheriff. I couldn't see. Hey, Sheriff, I'm not gonna say anything bad about you.
So these are the numbers you were given, you didn't? Okay. All right.
Okay, are we ready to?
Do we need,
Can we put them all together?
well, my question is, do we need to, and I know Kathy and is Lisa back there?
She's back there.
Lisa's back there, the sheriff is back there, and Kathy's back there.
I couldn't see you, Lisa, sorry. My question is this is money not allocated that we weren't expecting.
Correct.
Doesn't happen. Madam Chair has said COVID money ain't gonna be around forever. You know, I look at the numbers, and I trust our finance officer, but there's one item up here that I don't see, which is a budget item for one of the departments that's here, that I would like to see with this free money, that is not free money, looked into as part of it. And if we're talking about voting on these tonight, I was hoping we might have not a budget workshop, but a meeting to just talk about these with the department heads, but I didn't know Lisa was back there. So I mean, I can bring it up tonight if we're talking about voting on these things tonight.
But let me just say that during the budget work session, they presented just about everything up here. When we had the budget work session.
And this is an
they-
item not on the budget work session that's just brought to my attention when I watched the
By one of
video.
the department heads or something?
By citizens of something that's needed. And
A citizen saying that something's needed?
And I actually agree with them in lieu of everything going on in the country.
County manager, I'm gonna allow him to state whatever it is the citizens think we need.
I think, and the sheriff's back there, he's still awake, it looks like. I'm looking at the sheriff's allotment. I would be curious, Kim and the sheriff and Ray, the cost of body cams for our deputies in the county, if that's a wise investment for the county. And I don't, you know, if you want him to come up here, you know, we've
He
got
can,
extra money.
he can speak to it, and let me say this prefacing that I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying we can't do it, but I also say that we vote on this tonight because they did what they was, their due diligence. We have money left over, 'cause I see remaining funds set aside to be used on case by case, whatever. So, Ray, can you come up and speak to body cams?
And Kim, while he's coming, on the backside of this, this is not all COVID.
No,
It's tax or sales
It's-
tax.
The Medicaid whole homeless, which is what we weren't planning for.
so just a quick breakdown. The excess that we didn't budget for with the COVID money, I'll start with that, the COVID money, was $125,290. We budgeted $200,000 we thought would transfer from those COVID funds. And then based on what we could reimburse the county for the dedicated employees, that was mainly what that money was used for. So that freed up $125,000 that we initially in July couldn't free up because we did not want to RIF employees. So we used $200,000 to make sure we did not RIF employees with the county or have to do furloughs. We did not budget the Medicaid hold harmless because we were told to be very conservative. You didn't want to pay back $500,000.
And we used zero for that.
So we
didn't
put zero in there
Zero.
for that. So right there, that's 600 and some, thousand right there. And then, just with unrestricted for the sales tax, the different articles that are completely unrestricted, I'm projecting that we will have $338,915 in excess of what we've so very conservatively budgeted.
We went low with that.
We
very
went low, but we also transferred funds from other funds. So that's what kind of made up where we were very conservative with sales tax revenue and these other lines. So moving into fiscal year '22, no, we will not have all of this excess to work with because we, again, transferred money from other funds this year.
Mr. Campbell? Answer. Jonathan, you ask him.
Go ahead, Ray.
On the body camera, it's a wonderful tool if we can afford it. According to other agencies that I'm talking to, the big expense is not so much the camera, it is the storage, because every second of whatever you record has got to be stored, and it's got to be stored not for a week or to a month, but for years. It is a tremendous expense. And we haven't even thought about cameras because the camera's no good if I don't have a good car to get to where I need to be so I can use the camera. That's my number one priority, is my vehicles. And then more bodies to wear a possible body camera. So that's what I'm battling. I've got multiple cars with over 100,000 miles on them. I've got 6 vehicles that are 5 years old. 2016, I've got a 2013, I've got 2012. You're looking at mileage 136, 124, 114, 165, 88, 92. So I've got a lot of high mileage vehicles. I have spent between $5,000 and $7,000 on a vehicle that has 124,000 miles on it.
Jonathan?
I've spent $3,000 on a truck that has roughly 80,000 miles on it, just to keep them running. So you can go along and not buy vehicles, and then I'm in a situation where I am now, where I don't need one, I need 3. So it would be great if we could set aside and I could budget 1 new vehicle a year. That's basically what we need. But right now, I'm in a need for 3. The SRO vehicles, and my guys, they're tending to want to go more towards SUVs just because the places we have to drive and get to. They want to go more that right. And a lot of agencies are going SUVs. So I think.
And I'm okay for the vehicles. I'm just saying, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying in excess of the part of the 145 that Kim, we have this money. I've looked online at the possible cost, just since you're here, your opinion on that. Knowing that we can't make the sheriff wear body cameras to an extent, but your opinion on that as the ones that would be sitting in front of TV cameras like our fellow people have in other areas. So that's why, get your opinion on that.
Let me interject before you get your opinion. I want your experience and your educational background. We do need body cameras. I understand what you're saying because I used to be the supervisor for BLET at COA years ago. So I know what you're talking about, the storage. And sometimes a piece of equipment looks simple, but it's actually with the functionality of it. I would suggest that the board look into charging or directing the county manager to look into a plan to buy body cameras and to have it in a plan, because there are grants that you can write to get body cameras. I mean, that's how the Elizabeth City Police got theirs. So what we need to do, and I'm just saying, I'm in agreement with body cameras. I mean, we see what happened close to us now, right up to 30, 35 miles. But they're so expensive, and sometimes citizens, I'm not being disparaging, but you see something, you think that, we buy one of those. It's the functionality and longevity of it, and also, what are you going to do with it? So we can decide that we want to charge the county manager to start looking into grants along with the check, if that's what you want. We can't tell you what to do. But what I'm saying, it is needed.
It is, but I do hear the sheriff saying.
I hear it.
I hear him saying that if he doesn't have personnel to go to the crime,
To wear the cameras.
to work the crime, you don't have a vehicle to get there and a body to drive the
Or a
car.
bicycle, they gotta drive a
Body
bicycle to
camera.
get there.
That's
And,
what,
and I had no idea that the storage, and what you're talking about
Yes.
is the cloud, I guess.
Yeah, and,
Right,
and,
that's what I've seen.
Hereford County went to body cams just I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, and, they would be a wealth of knowledge and information for us if we're thinking about going that route, but they've told me and I think, like I say, you can get grants and you can get cheap cameras, it's the storage.
Yeah, the
Having
cameras were cheap, but then you started getting into 15, 18,000 for the storage is one of the laws.
That runs it up, and,
so just like Commissioner Jones has said, that's something we need to look at long-term for the county through the sheriff's department. Just like Vice Chair Owens has stated, you still need people to wear it. You still need to get there. So we need to step this thing. We need to do one thing at a time. We got the money for your car, and you did make a good presentation during the budget work session, and all of them did, that's here. But yeah, we need body cams. I mean, I'm all for it, that and everything else we can do to keep our staff safe and keep us safe, and make sure that we don't end up, being liable for something that we should have done. So we need to start that process so we can show we are going toward that. But there are grants for a lot of things for law enforcement that we need to start
Tapping into.
Proactive.
tapping into.
And on that note, we just got connected with a great grant writer. She writes grants for Hereford County Sheriff's Office. I believe she's located
Okay.
in Greensboro. We got on the phone with her this week, and she's on board with us to help us write grants. So we're gonna get some money coming.
Okay.
Awesome.
So
Sounds
I'm-
good.
I'm
Awesome.
tickled to death for that.
But back to my original question, have you looked into them before, the cost and stuff, Ray? Like I said, I just Googled it with everything that's going on back home and in a neighboring county. And I didn't know, since you were here, we're talking money.
Actually, my son sent me pictures of body cameras last night. He said, Dad, you gotta have one. You gotta have one. My son told me that. But it's the storage that backed me off when they were talking about how much the cost of that was. And, that was a couple of years ago. Maybe things would come down some, I don't know. But Hereford County would be where I would go to talk with them.
Thank you. Like I said, I just Googled it and saw the camera was dirt cheap, but then you're talking 15 to 18. So I didn't know if you'd looked at figures and stuff. I didn't see it in the budget presentation.
Once they told me that the storage was the issue with the cameras and how long you had to keep it recording.
Gotcha.
During that research that the county manager's gonna do for us and do for the sheriff too, is that technology is changing, very rapidly. And they're going to a satellite. The federal government's already looking at going to satellite from a body camera type status.
Okay.
And it was a load off my shoulders when I got the call the other day on the 50,000 from Mr. Steinberg, because, man, I was sweating the deal on these radios because they are expensive. We can get them, Chief was looking at them today, he just called another company today, And I had told Diane that these radios could cost us as much as $3,000 a piece. And we are looking at other radios now. I don't know that we need one with all the bells and whistles. We can maybe go a little bit cheaper, but you kind of get what you pay for too. So you don't want to go cut yourself so deep with a radio. You got to have a nice radio. But I'm hoping maybe we can get really good radios that do all we need to do for less than $2.
Well, you need to get what you need to operate your sheriff department. Don't go cheap. The cheap days at Case County, that kind of thinking has to stop. I'm not saying be frivolous with the money, but get what you need while the money is available or the grant's available. Just get what you need, because you, like you said, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. Thank y'all for what y'all do.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sheriff.
Be safe.
He stole the pen. We pay for those pens, Ray.
The sheriff is a
Look.
maniac.
We got him on camera too.
Mr. Corey got you on camera, so we
You
know.
had a body camera, you could have justified yourself.
So what do we need to do? We need to,
Well,
What's your
the
pleasure?
reason I just wanted to let you guys know, I did not do the formal budget amendments because I was waiting to see kind of what was decided. As long as it is approved, whatever is approved by the board tonight, for example, for these folks that are waiting to get cars, they can go ahead tomorrow if it's approved, and then for the May meeting, I'll have the actual formal budget amendment on paper.
So since we don't have the budget amendments, do we need to say we make a motion to, well, I guess we have to break it
Follow
down.
recommendations
Break it down.
that the finance officer has brought forward.
And that would start at the 63, Kim, all the way down
All the
to
way
the
down.
remaining funds one, right?
Yes.
okay.
Um,
Do you have a motion?
Madam, do I need to read each one out?
You can, I would like that.
All right, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion. I recommend that we allow the county finance officer to proceed with her recommendations for excess of funds over budget, the sales tax revenue and CRF funds. Her recommendations being $63,200 to cover the fund balance appropriation, $55,190 used to balance the budget previously, $8,010 increased cost in fiscal year 20 audit for single audits, use $467,191 to set aside for the balloon payment to pay the DSS loan off in fiscal year 23, $145,356 for capital outlay vehicles, meaning to provide our planning and zoning department with 1 new vehicle and our sheriff's department with 3 vehicles. Use $28,850 for an imaging technology services for our Register of Deeds department to be able to image 1967 to 1994 years. Use $100,000 to set aside for unfunded liabilities, and the remaining funds to be set aside to be used on a case-by-case basis.
I'll second that motion, Madam Chairman.
Okay, what about the Board of Elections?
Yeah, that was the fourth one.
Can I amend my, will
You
you
can amend it.
drop your second, Mr. Freeman, Mr. Freeman?
Remove the
I
second.
will.
And also, Kim, sorry, that wasn't on your sheet.
I'm sorry.
It's just 26,623, is that right?
That the county will cover.
And also her recommendation to use 26,623 to purchase election systems and software equipment for our Board of Elections Department. And that is my motion.
And I will second that motion, sir.
It's been properly moved and second that we accept the recommendations from the finance director. All approved?
Aye.
Motion carried.
I was still tired.
Let me, Madam Chair, I'd like to go on record to say that Commissioner Hoffler is very happy. She's been saying for years that we should create that fund and contribute to it for the unfunded liabilities, and I've agreed with her on it many times, and we've accomplished it tonight.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Outland.
Thank you.
I do appreciate seeing that on there.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Ray, Lisa, and Kathy.
We have other departmental reports. I think they're in your packet. Do you, County Manager, do you have anything you want to highlight or?
Yeah, I was very pleased with the number of reports that came in on a timely fashion this time.
You mean some don't come in on time sometimes?
Sometimes they're a little late. Sometimes they don't show up.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Hearing none. Articles of interest? County manager, you asked for Lisa to present, where you want to present this?
Yes. When she,
Here she comes. This is the handout on your,
Thank you again, by the way. Good evening. I think we provided you with something from the NCLM that recently came up, just came to my attention, and I think the COG had a meeting, if I'm not mistaken, Commissioner Hoffler as well. And there's some bills have been proposed, and it's Senate Bill 349 and House Bill 401 to increase housing opportunities is how it is worded. The developers have basically gotten behind this. And what it would do, it would limit the local authorities to not be able to basically have zoning rights and be able to approve those things in their counties. And Pasquotank provided us with something here recently through the listserv, and I've provided that to you as an example that their county attorney did to respond to their senators and legislature for Senate Bill 349 and House Bill 401 to send that their commissioners had done. So I thought and through their county attorney, it was a model that was sent out. And if you are interested, it's the board's pleasure. I thought you might want to do that as well, if you were interested.
are the commissioners familiar with these House bills? They came out a couple of weeks ago. I had a whole list of bills that I look at, and I clicked on these, where it said anything with housing on it, I click on it. And they are trying to limit the authority of the county to determine how to use their land, or where houses are going. And so the counties across the state are not pleased with this, because they're trying to take away the authority of the county commissioners, or the planning and zoning, as far as how you plan and zone for housing.
Because the title says about open lands, but
Yeah.
it could be that you have a whole row of homes, and then they want to put in a duplex or multi-apartment. Anything they could want to put right in the middle of it.
So
a
they're
land
taking-
use program.
Yes,
So they're taking our choices away
away
from us,
from us.
right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Our local
Okay.
choices that we have made.
The density would be tremendous, and that's something we brought up recently through our, that we're working on right now for the 160D and updating our ordinances. Density is something that's been brought up that we needed to address.
And see,
And
all
that's a
the
big
work
deal.
you've done on that
Yeah.
would be undone by this.
Exactly, absolutely.
Ms. Cherry, have you, line by line, or are you in agreement with what you see in this resolution?
Yes, and that was the model resolution that was sent out by the League of Municipalities as well.
Well, I'm certainly not in favor of somebody outside of the county dictating or restricting us in a way that, we're moving in the right direction for our county, for our citizens. We know what's best for our people. So I'm in favor of that. I mean, I haven't read the whole document because we're seeing it here, so that's the reason I asked about that. But you're saying it's a model.
It is.
Yes. Yes.
I would like to see the board adopt this as our resolution, addressing the same House bill, Senate bill, House bill. Senate Bill 349, House Bill 401. That's not a motion. Madam Chair, I don't know if you're asking for any more dialogue on it.
Any more dialogue on this? The questions for Lisa?
I still stand by what I've always said is sitting here, is that, I know all of you have heard it, regulate, regulate, and over-regulate.
Right.
And it was brought up, the density was brought up at the planning board meeting yesterday,
Yes.
that we have issues, but we can handle that internally and not have someone come in
I think it's better for Gates County to decide land use than have it be fostered on us from the state.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that tonight we enter into a resolution for Gates County using the model that we're all have before us at this time, opposing Senate Bill 349 and House Bill 401, Increased Housing Opportunities is the title.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. Unlike Commissioner Owens, I don't like voting on stuff I hadn't read. I'm just messing, Jack. But we got two resolutions in front of us.
I have one more thing to talk to you about.
So do we need to do them? That's what I was going to ask.
You
Commissioner
may want
Owens.
to, you may want to do them separately. They're two separate things.
Gotcha, okay.
So we have a motion and a
Motion on the
second.
floor. Yes, ma'am. And all,
You seconded, right?
she said.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Ready to vote? All in favor? By saying
Aye.
All opposed? Approved.
Okay.
County Manager, you got another resolution to do.
And in front of you, we have another. There's a Senate Bill 455 that has been introduced as well. There's not as much information on that, but I think you would be interested. And Pasquotank County was nice enough to also present us with their sample resolution for an example, rather. And this is Senate Bill 455. And what this will do, it's an act to decriminalize non-statutory criminal offenses and violations. And what that would do is any ordinances that the county may have, whether it be a noise ordinance, whether it be a local ordinance for land use, they are mandating what you see here, that no more than $50 and decriminalizing anything if you have that in your county, in your ordinance. And there's a lot more than just myself that has ordinances in place. So it could affect, the Sheriff's Department, the animal ordinance, the noise ordinance, anything. So they were nice enough to provide us, again, from Pasquotank County with an example there. And I do have a copy of the Senate bill. That was all we had, what's been filed. It's, again, it could be any time that they vote on it, but it's there. And that was something that has come up as well. And even the Planning Association and the legislative chair, they're doing more research just to see where this is headed. And it was introduced and recalled, and now they're refiling. So if you're interested, just thought it would be good information.
Do you have any idea who the senator was that introduced that bill?
Well, let's
I'd
see.
like to know.
See what we have here. The sponsors are Britt, Muhammad, Lee, Bazemore, Jackson, and Murdoch.
And I think you'll find that they are in the more metropolitan area.
I said that Bazemore's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no specific counties that are addressed. So I do know.
I would, this is contrary to what I just recommended, but
Go on record like you'd like to. Go on
yeah,
record.
I want to go on record that I believe I'd like to wait on this, on this particular vote on this. I'd like to hear Commissioner Freeman, not tonight, but I'd like to hear Commissioner Freeman's take on it. I'd also like to hear the sheriff's take on it. The other one was a whole lot clearer to me. Madam Chair, can we table this to our next meeting?
We can table it to the next meeting. It's all in agreement. We have a motion.
And of course, it could be passed by them, but anyway.
Let's pray not. So you want to make that, put in the motion that we table this
I make a motion we table this to the next meeting.
to the next meeting? That's in May.
And I will second that motion so Commissioner Owens has ample time to read that bill and understand it.
Thank you.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
It's tabled until our next meeting in May 19th.
Have a nice evening.
Have a nice
Thank you,
evening.
Lisa. Be safe.
Any more articles of interest?
There is a bill that is in the works, House Bill 384. It's called the Fiber North Carolina Act, that we might need to pay attention to concerning broadband.
Okay.
You bring that to the next meeting? Since you-
And it's, looking at who's going to be kind of in charge of how this broadband is going to
Distributed.
be distributed, and they see it equally over the areas.
Okay.
Did you, Madam Chair, I don't know, did you look, you said you read a bunch of bills. Representative Hunter sent that email. Was there any bills that we need to show our support, you think?
I'm looking at them. I had so many to come in, and you got links. I'm like, Jack, I have to go and check on the link and see what is they
Right.
proposing. But I'm looking at anything to do with housing, anything to do with broadband. That's the buzzword. That's where most of the funding. The issue with broadband is that the AT&T, Spectrum, all the big companies, gonna get the federal dollars. We are not. We can't even apply for it. And that's an FCC issue, and Butterfield knows about it. I've been watching, back and forth. People are asking him, couldn't he do something about that FCC, the FCC regulation? So, as I look at all the bills, it's a lot of bills coming down, because now they've got subcommittees working. Everybody's working now. So I'm on it as far as anything to do with housing, broadband.
But no,
waste-
nothing, he sent the email that we need to start looking
Right,
into,
right, right.
like for, doing a resolution.
I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
yeah.
that's where I focus on wastewater, our water system. I think I sent y'all something about the water that they're looking at, holding, I don't know what they're doing. So I'm waiting to see what that outcome's gonna be. But those are things that, as we look at planning for the influx of $2.2 million, we gotta be mindful, look at what we need for that money. One-time money, you're not gonna get it all. Something that's not recurring. So, yeah, and if you see anything, as you look at our representatives, our senators, that they meet, subcommittee they're working on, just reach out to them.
And I didn't see anything, that's what I want to make sure I
No.
didn't miss it, but, he did have one that was specifically for Hertford County.
Yeah, I saw that.
Occupancy and stuff, so.
He
that
signed
one-
that, yeah.
That one, yeah, so we need to get ours at some point,
Oh, we're gonna get it. Somebody gonna
after
give us-
Jack has time to read it.
Yeah. Okay, county calendar, I don't see anything except for next month is our, they're gonna present the proposed budget and other things that's on the calendar probably. We don't have any public hearings. Old business ban, North Carolina. I've been working, I was given a directive to work on that, it's a $5,000 grant. But it's working to get the seniors workshops so they understand how to use their devices and like telehealth, telemedicine, Zoom, whatever they may need. So I've been working with Sharon Smith is at ML Commission. She's writing it, and Reba is she's helping her with the actual grant. And these are the letters of support. So I'm asking for a letter of support from the commissioners for this. They have a template. It's a short 3 paragraphs. Admiral Commission has submitted a letter. Gates County Chamber of Commerce, I've asked Ray for that, and he's working on that. Gates County Cooperative Extension, Gates County Department of Social Services, Gates County Faith Community, Gates County Interregional Transportation, Gates County Library, Gates County Schools, the Jordan Management Group, LLC, Senior Tar Heels of North Carolina, and the Roanoke Center. Those are the partners in this grant to make sure that we score high on that grant, so that we can get the funding we need for workshops to offer to the senior citizens in Gates County, so that they can learn how to use their devices in this technology-driven world. So that's the update. Any questions on that? And it's due April
Sounds good.
it's due April the 30th, so we're working like this week trying to get everything pulled together and get it out. The other one is the NC growth. I gave you a handout just about every month now. But I have talked with Kathy Freiberger, and she's going to be working with her person, Jess Wilkinson, to draft a scope of work and discuss timeline and budget. And from there, we'll see what the analysts say. They're going to do an analysis. And then they want to come and do an introductory presentation to the commissioners, either virtual or in person. After the county manager, Tim, is on board, so they can work with him, because he will be the project manager for the county as far as that strategic planning that we've been talking about. So I'm just bringing up to date as far as what's needed. The only action we need or directive we need is that letter of support for the band, North Carolina, the one that's due April the 30th. But right now, we'll be just waiting for the county manager to come so he can be in the initial conversation as far as the strategic plan.
So you're going to draft the letter of support from the commissioners yourself?
It's already a
and-
template. I can send it to the county. Everybody's using the same template. You can change the word if you want, but I don't see any need of doing that.
Okay, so it's
So
ready.
I have a template that I can share with the county manager. And Ray has a template already for the chamber.
He said he's got his written.
Yeah, it's written. just
Yeah, I
right.
haven't given it to me. I'm just playing.
Well, we don't have our secretary has not put it on the letter yet.
Oh, okay.
Have you read it, Ray Charles?
Yeah. Well, it's still in the black.
Is it in black? Is it in Braille? So-
And I signed it, so I
Okay.
didn't have to give it to anybody else.
Okay, that's good. Commissioner comments? Ray?
Starting down here, thank you, ma'am. There are a few things to say as usual, but mainly it's very important to us to serve you. So we certainly appreciate your input, but we do. Then my commitment, and I know it is from my colleagues, is to you and to the community. We discuss things here, you listen to them, but the situation of governing is difficult, no matter how we do it. We work to manage the county, and so I'll not waver the principles and goals that the law requires, because we do work within those. We always are looking for additional revenue, and you just heard me say, and I'll say it again, we don't want to regulate, and over-regulate. Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Hoffler?
Well, tonight has been, I think, a very good meeting. We saw the best of Gates County tonight with the Monument Committee, where a group of diverse people came together, looked at the situation, and thought outside the box, and came up with a solution. I think that is a template that we could use for various problems and that we might confront in the future. And so I was very pleased with the way it was conducted. And tonight we see it's nice to have some extra money to take care of some needs that we have. And hopefully that we will be more proactive in seeking out funds and getting some of the things that we desperately need for our departments. Just thank you, stay safe.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. First off, reiterate what Commissioner Hoffler said. Thank the citizens of the Confederate Monument Committee for their service and working together. And I think that the five of us will agree they did a heck of a job, and I'm glad we're sitting where we're sitting in regards to the monument here in Gates County, and listening to Mo Brooks speak, and then tied into, being able to firsthand tie it into what his family's going through right now, puts a little extra touch into it, how Gates County is different than other areas. Second thing, I think that yesterday was the last mass clinic at the health department. Only reason I know that is because I was on medical center and I saw all the traffic and thought I was going to get stopped and talked to one of the guys, and he said it was the last one. So I'd like to say thank you to all the volunteers, all the health department workers that had a role in it, and as well as Easton's Ballpark for the use of facility. I think the positive case number has dropped drastically. And the governor's press conference today about there's going to be a lot of changes between now and June 1st, with the exception of the mask mandate. But that's something that is good, that things are changing around. Third, she left after our last meeting, but I want to publicly thank Melissa Lawrence for her service as clerk to the board and the assistant to the county manager for her service. And good luck to her in her new career. Continuing on with that, I want to thank Billy Wynn for his many years of service to the county as EM director. I think we can all say, and all the citizens can say, we owe him a debt of gratitude for the hours and days and the sacrifices he and his family his family has made because of his service to the county. We wish him well. I wish him well in his new position. I know we all do with North Carolina Emergency Management. And lastly, but not least, I think Saturday is the litter cleanup. We talked about this at the last meeting. I was tasked to do something, and that task became talk to Tricia Lewis and let her run with it. And Tricia Lewis has ran with it. We have about 13 roads in the county supposed to be cleaned up Saturday. Looks like Saturday morning because the rain's going to hold out for us. I hope the good Lord will do. But about 100 citizens have stepped up to the plate and going to be cleaning the county roads. When Tricia and I first talked, we had no clue what to expect. But I got a text message last night at about 10:30 from somebody saying their group had met and what do they need to do. And it scared me because I didn't have my phone on Do Not Disturb yet, and I was happy to get that text. So there's about 100 citizens. We've got team leaders that have taken charge and gone out and recruited people. Some people saw it on the social media page that Tricia started and are going to be helping. Got a phone call from a lady last night because we put the info in the newspaper. She called me and said, "What can I do to help?" And so it's good to see citizens wanting to help and make a difference. I've seen that some kids around the county have as part of Earth Day, have done some cleaning themselves over the last few days, and their parents have posted pictures. And it's like one parent told me last night at the soccer field, they cleaned up an area of road the other day, and before they had left, when they were driving back to their house, there was already a piece of trash that had been thrown out. And the lady I talked to today said that she's going to get her grandkid to come help. And I said, if your grandkid understands the importance of what you're doing, maybe down the road he'll be in the car with somebody when he gets older, or he goes to McDonald's or one of our local restaurants and would realize, hey, I don't need to throw this piece of trash out. So this was a quickly thrown together event. We're going to keep maintaining it, Tricia has said. But I'm just excited that we got 13 teams. And if any citizen is watching or any commissioners, we've got a few roads that can still use some volunteers. We're going to be sending a list of roads. The DOT has been great. Jim and Mike, local guys, have been great. We're going to send an email tomorrow, it's Thursday, of all the roads, and we're going to report to them on Monday of the number of volunteers and the number of bags. One group, Alex Parsane's family, was not able to participate this week, but they did it last Saturday, I believe. Reached out and said, look, next time, we'll try to do it on the same date, but we can't do it, but we're going to go ahead and do our quarterly cleaning. So it's good to see that people want to care. Some people I've not talked to or didn't know have reached out, and that's good that people are taking it to heart to try to make a difference. So if you know anybody, if you want to come out for 30, 45 minutes and help with a road, just call me tomorrow or Friday, and we can get you in touch with the team leaders and get you set. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Owens?
Jonathan, that was very informative. Good job. I'd like to thank our county employees who went out and helped with the COVID vaccines as well. I remember seeing Sheriff's report and also meeting with him in his office, and his staff and himself have done a lot of work out there, traffic, and just helping out. So, Sheriff, we appreciate that. Only in Gates County, nowhere else in the world, can you take a volatile topic like a monument and handle it like ladies and gentlemen, like friends, like neighbors, in a gentle way, and come up with a solution that benefits everybody. You can be proud to say, I'm a citizen of Gates County, and not just today. We heard about the monument decision today, and not just today. It takes people living every day like today that enables you to make a decision like was made today. And we really didn't make the decision. This committee made the decision. We just followed through on their recommendations. So they need to be applauded. You can also be happy to call yourself a citizen of Gates County when you see the way the county has pulled together in support with prayer, with donations, with contributions, and I'm sure with letters and cards and emails, and you see it on Facebook relating to Micah Brooks and the Brooks family. And the reason the outpouring is so great, because it's such a great family. And Mo and Crystal should be very proud of their son, and if possible, they should be proud of themselves, because he is who he is because of the way they raised him. So I want to applaud you, Gates County, for stepping up and helping that family. And the help goes on. They're going to need help. Micah's going to need help for a while. But I'm believing through faith that God's going to do a great work through this event. Thank you.
I just want to thank the citizens of Gates County for not only watching, but also being engaged in the activities in Gates County that makes us move forward. I, too, I'm very proud of that committee. They worked tirelessly. They worked together. They made a decision for the citizens. They engaged the citizens. Again, that word engagement is very important, that all citizens have a voice in their future in Gates County. We all live here. I'm often criticized for asking people to be good neighbors. And I will continue to ask people to be good neighbors. Who's your neighbor? It's not the one living next door to you. It's your community. And so we should be good neighbors. We don't have to be disagreeable when we disagree. And so that's a good example. When I talked with Mo and Crystal last week, you know, they're hopeful for Michael. They were asking me how to get him in ECSU in the fall. They want to know about housing for a handicap if he has to, you know, have ADA assistance. So they're prayerful, they're hopeful, and we are too. And I'm hopeful for Gates County. There are better days ahead for Gates County. I can see it, I can feel it. It may fool me, but we're only going to be as good as the citizens allow us to be together. We can't move without them, and they should understand that we sit where we sit because you put us here and to help us to govern, because that's what we do. I look forward to continue working this year on some projects that we talked about tonight and others that are going to be on the table. I would like to say that there's also a movement around the counties around us to lift the state of emergency, the county of emergency. I got notice yesterday on a phone call, then I read it in the Daily Advance, the Pasquotank has lifted theirs. And other counties are looking at lifting theirs. It does not affect our reimbursement. It does not affect future funding. It's just that with the vaccinations going so well in the county, the risk is down in the county, but we still got to be vigilant. Let me say that. You still got to be vigilant with your mask and your hand washing and your social distancing. Take care of yourself. But we will, commissioners, probably bring that up on the agenda in the May meeting about what do we do, because we are moving forward. The governor is moving forward. So we need to take a good look at that. But again, thank you for your patience and tuning in. I'm just pleased with the forward movement. To have a movement, you got to move forward. Status quo, you're not getting anywhere. And everybody around you is still moving. You're still in the status quo. We're not going to do that. We're going to move intentionally, methodically, and with a plan. Because when you don't do that, then it's inefficient and ineffective. And I think we are doing a good job here as commissioners. Do we all agree? No. But I'm going to try not to be disagreeable. You get on my nerve, but I'm going to try not to be disagreeable. And finally, I want to say that there's a mural at Museum of the Alcohol celebrating the 100th year of the 19th Amendment. That gave women the right to vote.
And there are two on that mural from Gates County.
It is two on the mural for Gates County. I wrote their names down because I was reading and I said, let me write that down. So if you get a chance to go to Elizabeth City, go to Museum of the Alcohol. I'm on the board there, and I intend to go over one day this week or before it leaves. But it's something to say that here we sit, 100 100 years ago, women received the right to vote. But I must say, that did not include women of color. It did not. So I'm sitting here as a chair of a board of commissioners, an African-American female, because of the 19th Amendment and the civil rights and voting rights. So as we fight about voting rights, I'm just going to say it doesn't make any sense to me that everybody that's legally aged to vote should vote and not be gerrymandered out, not be suppressed. So I sit here as a person in this historic courthouse across the street from the Confederate Monument, proud to be here in Gates County. That shows you the heart of Gates County, that we're not like all the other counties. And we're going to be criticized, but that's okay, as long as we're kind and good neighbors.
They're just jealous.
They're just jealous. They're just jealous. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
Aye. Take care and stay safe.
Did you go inside when you said that?
Have a good evening, sir.
Because